Hey YouTube, this is my first video for my channel, and I just wanted to very briefly use video as a platform for some pontification that I've been thinking about lately. Um, I want to read out a passage from Julius Evola's book, The Revolt Against the Modern World. Julius Evola is a controversial philosopher, and I'm certainly not, by quoting him, I'm not endorsing everything that he said at all. But he was a brilliant man, regardless, and you do have to deal with him at some point. He was extremely influential behind the scenes. Maybe not as well known. He's not a household name for a lot of people, but for particular ideologies today, he's extremely important. And I'll probably discuss some of that in later videos. But just really briefly, I wanted to read out this passage. Again, this comes from The Revolt Against the Modern World. I'm not sure when this came out. I think it was the 30s maybe, or 40s. Something like that. Probably actually a little bit later, maybe 50s or 60s. Let's see if I can find a date. Looks like it came out in 1969. So anyway, this is from the first chapter entitled The Beginning. Now what Julius Evola is doing is he's trying to lay down what it is that traditional societies, in contradistinction to the modern world, what traditional societies looked like and what made them traditional. And his argument is that, you know, we should be going back to that. But anyways, he gives a great definition of something that I want to elucidate upon. He says, "There is a physical order of things and a metaphysical one. There is a mortal nature and an immortal nature. There is the superior realm of being and the inferior realm of becoming. Generally speaking, there is a visible and tangible dimension, and prior to and beyond it, an invisible and intangible dimension that is the support, the source, and true life of the former." So there's two distinctions that he's making, and that is being on one hand and becoming on the other hand. Now, being is something that does not change by definition, because if it changed, then it would be something else. So if it changed, it would then be in a state of becoming, no longer being. Being is the end goal of what becoming is moving towards. Something is becoming something because it's not yet something. It's not yet something that has a stable identity. Now, all of the world is becoming. I mean, this world is the world of becoming. You yourself are in a constant state of becoming. You're not the same that you were yesterday. You're not the same that you were the night before, 4 hours earlier. You know, you're not the same. You're constantly changing and becoming, physically, mentally, psychologically. Those changes are so intangible oftentimes that for all intents and purposes, we just linguistically are in the habit of giving things stable identities. Oh, that's so-and-so. That's this person. That's this person. And the assumption is, you know, that's the same person as he was yesterday. He didn't change. But more precisely, everything is in a state of changing. And so everything is in a state of becoming. Now the question is, what is it becoming towards? If you do have free will, and you are in a constant state of becoming, then the things that you do will they're going to dictate what it is that you're becoming, what it is that you're aiming for, what is the final state. Now there may not be a final state. It's almost like a very abstract thing. Being is the most pure abstract thing that exists. It's purely mental. It's not abstract versus concrete, meaning, you know, this world is concrete. These are physical, tangible things. There is nothing here that is being. Now, the argument, though, that ancient people made, and Julius Evola is saying, indeed, traditional societies did say this, is that every human being does have a core of being inside of oneself. And that what a human life should be for, the proper human life, is to try to bring out what is inside in the outer world, to approximate as close as possible in your becoming that which has being, that which has identity. So the idea is there's like an inner and an outer. There's an inner person, which is being, and is not subject to change. And then there's the outer person, which is becoming, and the proper role of human consciousness is to try to take control of that becoming and to steer it through action and decisions, through the process, so that it becomes more like what is inside of you. This is the same thing as becoming what it is that you are. It's the same thing. And indeed, it wouldn't be too much to say that that is what you really want. Anyways, this is what all your striving is for, but it's very unconscious. And so what Julius Evola is saying is that traditional societies had some kind of a memory, or at least some individuals, an entire class of individuals, had the memory of what this being is more so than the average person. And that was what constituted a traditional society, is that the society was run by those who approximated being, and that that they tried as best they could to order society in such a way that it facilitated everybody moving towards being. And since our culture doesn't have that, modern culture doesn't, even rejected the idea, really, of having a being which we should aim for, or an ultimate truth. We are secular, the secular West. The secular West doesn't believe in anything that is beyond the material world. The secular West defines itself as being materialistic. The very definition here, he gives a very, very precise definition. I'm going to pause here and see if I can... Okay, so I found the passage. It's actually on that first chapter as well. Now, this is what Julius Evola has to say about modern societies, in contradistinction to traditional societies, which had a knowledge of this dichotomy between being and becoming. He says, nowadays, after all, reality is understood only as something strictly encompassed within the world of physical bodies located in space and time. In other words, a real material culture, as ours is, even though there are those who believe in spiritual realities, but we don't have access to those spiritual realities. We're only familiar with the world of becoming. And real materialism is the idea that that's all that exists. There is only physicalness, and there is nothing beyond physicalness. Even energy and all that kind of stuff is tangible stuff that exists in space and time. So space and time are very important to the materialist, and if you didn't believe in space and time, you might have to rethink materialism. Certainly, there are those who believe in something beyond the realm of phenomena. When these people admit the existence of something else, however, they are always led to this conclusion by a scientific hypothesis or law, or by a speculative idea, or by a religious dogma. They cannot escape such an intellectual limitation. Through his practical and immediate experiences, modern man, no matter how deep his materialistic or spiritual beliefs may be, develops an understanding of reality only in relation to the world of physical bodies, and always under the influence of his direct and immediate experiences. This is the real materialism for which our contemporaries should be reproached. So, what Julius Evola is saying here is that this difference between traditional societies and the modern world, which is not a real society or a real culture in any real sense, has lost this understanding of being. And this is important for the definition that I'm going to develop in a later video of what the philosopher is. So understand this distinction here between being and becoming, and I'll talk to you soon.